2026 ผ่านมาครึ่งปีแล้วแต่เศรษฐกิจโลกยังคงน่าเป็นห่วงจากสถานการณ์ภูมิรัฐศาสตร์ที่เปราะบางวิกฤตพลังงานที่ยืดเยื้อและค่าครองชีพที่เพิ่มสูงขึ้นทำให้อัตราการเติบโตของเศรษฐกิจโลกในปีนี้มีแนวโน้มจะชะลอตัวลงท่ามกลางความไม่แน่นอนด้านเศรษฐกิจไทยกำลังจะเป็นเจ้าภาพจัดการประชุมสภาผู้ว่าการกองทุนการเงินระหว่างประเทศและกลุ่มธนาคารโลกประจำปี 2026 ที่จะจัดขึ้นระหว่างวันที่ 12-18 ตุลาคมนี้ณศูนย์การประชุมแห่งชาติสิริกิติ์ซึ่งการประชุมครั้งนี้ถือเป็นหนึ่งในเวทีเศรษฐกิจและการเงินที่สำคัญที่สุดของโลกและเป็นครั้งแรกในรอบกว่า 35 ปีที่ไทยได้รับเกียรติเป็นเจ้าภาพอีกครั้งการประชุมครั้งนี้มีความสำคัญต่อประเทศไทยและเศรษฐกิจโลกอย่างไรบ้างติดตามได้ในการสัมภาษณ์พิเศษกับศาสตราจารย์ปีเตอร์ดเวเปอร์ผู้อำนวยการบริหารจากสถาบันการค้าระหว่างประเทศของมหาวิทยาลัยแอดิเลดประเทศออสเตรเลีย
Hello, Professor Draper. Thank you for coming to TNN today.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
As we are in the middle of the year 2026 already, it's amazing how time flies. And there will be a World Bank and IMF meeting in Thailand in October. Do you expect to see any outcome or any strategy for the world economy for next year?
So the meetings are interesting for a range of reasons. I think first and foremost for Thailand, it's an opportunity to put its story up in lights and show it to the world of international finance, really, because that's what those two institutions represent. So it's a very powerful forum. And the conversations obviously will focus on economic growth, macroeconomic trajectories, and I think a third very important part of the conversation that's bubbling under will be if and how the world can manage growing macroeconomic imbalances. At the center of that is the very large US trade and current account deficit and the Chinese vast trade surplus, but not only China, other countries have trade surpluses too. Historically, when these imbalances have built up in the global financial system and trading system, the two are linked quite inextricably, there have been major implications. So I can cite two historical examples. The first was in the 1970s when President Nixon broke the link between the gold price and the US dollar and stopped converting the US dollar into gold. So he broke the Bretton Woods system effectively of fixed exchange rates. The second was in the 1980s with the Plaza Accord when similar imbalances are built up between Japan and Germany and the United States. Some say, certainly some Japanese scholars, that that Plaza Accord, which led to the strong yen, caused the Japanese 2 decades of deflation. For sure, the Chinese have learned that lesson. They don't want to repeat those mistakes. That's why fixing those problems now is so much more difficult because China doesn't want to change its economic model, and the US has determined that it has to force China to change. And this is the contest we're now in on a macroeconomic front, and trade tools are being deployed to fix the problem from a US point of view. And so I think even though there was a reasonable summit outcome from the Trump-Xi summit, if you liken it to a heavyweight boxing contest, it was round 2 and maybe they're going to 15 rounds, who knows. Seconds out, it's just a matter of time before they get back in and further instability ensues. So that's the context for the IMF World Bank discussions that the finance ministers, the central bank governors will be having.
But the fact that the World Bank and the IMF meeting is going to take place in Thailand in October, do you think it is a good opportunity for Thailand to boost its economy both to the local people and also to the foreign investor?
With the conference itself attracts a lot of people, so there'll be a lot of activity around that. I assume it'll happen in Bangkok, so that's good for the tourist-related industries, hotel infrastructure and so on. So that'll be a sort of a conference spend-related thing. It's a big event, so that's important. But the world's media attention will also be on the conference. And so that's an opportunity for the Thai government to sell Thailand's story. So what it wants to sell, I don't know, but I'm sure they've got that messaging worked out already. And so I do think it's important for Thailand to host this and for other countries to host it as well. Yeah.
And Thailand has the goal to join the OECD in 2028. Why do you think this is a great milestone for Thai economy?
So the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, you could call the rich countries club. It's the developed countries club primarily. But if you've reached development status, your economy, generally speaking, is regarded as at a high level. So for Thailand to accede to the organization, it's a recognition of status. So that's important. That sends a signal, I think, to the global investment community, certainly the Western investment community as well as trade community, that Thailand is a serious player in the developed world of nations, so to speak. But also to accede to the OECD requires, from my understanding, a range of regulatory and policy reforms in Thailand that I think would serve the Thai economy and the Thai people well. So setting that target and then making the policy and regulatory and institutional changes is an important reform statement, but also a reform benchmark. So as part of a development strategy, I think it's a very important goal to strive for.
So that's going to be a lot of work for Thailand to do in order to join the OECD.
A lot of work. So the OECD accession process has many committees. I don't know how many, but there are many. And I also don't know, because I haven't seen Thailand's own report, but where Thailand needs to do further work to meet the OECD standards. But it could be, for instance, some things like competition policy. Given the structure of the economy and the dominance of certain conglomerates in the Thai economy, which I think is pretty well known. So having a robust competition policy is part of that ask that OECD members will have. And then the flip side of that is a concept called competitive neutrality, and thinking particularly about the role of state-owned enterprises in the economy, and you certainly do have some of those. And they compete on a level playing field with the private sector. And so some reforms would have to be made there too. And then the OECD also has very strong integrity provisions. So that requires a range of governance reforms, so transparency requirements, for instance, putting in place anti-corruption procedures. So it's quite a demanding process, but without going through those reforms and without OECD member countries effectively signing off that Thailand has met the bar, so to speak, it's inconceivable that Thailand would join the OECD. So that's, it's like a club, and the club members control access to the club, and you have to sign up to the rules or you're not joining the club. Similar to a WTO accession process that some countries are still going through. Yeah.
And we are looking forward for the World Bank and the IMF meeting in Bangkok in October this year. Thank you very much, Professor Draper, for talking with TNN World today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.